Returning to our top story, and the SES has been inundated with calls from residents seeking assistance during a severe rain and flooding event. For an update, I'm joined by SES Deputy Commissioner Daniel Austin. Daniel, thank you for your time. I know you're extremely busy. More evacuation orders are in place for New South Wales. Where are the main areas of concern?
Yeah, look, so obviously, as we know, the mid-north coast areas like Taree, Kempsey, Port Macquarie, but the general mid-north coast area has seen an absolute battering from the rainfall. Numerous evacuation orders are still in place there. We have seen some calls for us to drop some of those warnings back. However, we are expecting to see secondary peaks in the rivers today, and then potentially another one again tomorrow. So at this point in time, we're not in a position to back some of those warnings out yet, but we will be working with the community as closely as possible to do so when we can. But we're also looking then right the way down into the Sydney metropolitan area, so right down through the Hunter and the Central Coast. We started to see some flash flooding events that occurred yesterday in and around Parramatta and the Parramatta River, and we're still expecting to see some pretty significant rainfall up through the Blue Mountains today as well. So a very wide area of operations currently, and then we're also looking forward into tomorrow and beyond, where we see an inland trough move its way across the state, bringing some very wet weather to the western parts as well.
Yes, absolutely. We heard the press conference yesterday with Premier Gladys Berejiklian talking about the prolonged weather event, and we spoke to you and also our meteorologists yesterday and today in terms of the prolonged weather event. So it's certainly not over, and advising people to not drive if possible. In terms of the prolonged weather event, and as you mentioned, the Blue Mountains area, what are we looking at in terms of what people have to do? Is there potential for evacuations in that area as well?
Look, as we've worked out, this is a pretty dynamic weather system. Yes, it parked itself over the mid-north coast for an extended period of time, but we're seeing widespread totals, 100 millimetres plus in 24-hour periods. So our advice to people is you need to be aware of your own surroundings and maintain your own situational awareness. A number of these have been very isolated systems where they literally have parked themselves almost over a very small community and then dropped a significant amount of rainfall in a very, very short space of time. So yes, the usual advice around do not drive through floodwaters. We've unfortunately still seen, even into the early hours of this morning, people driving into floodwater and then needing to be rescued. We saw people drive around road closed signs, and we saw people drive past other parked cars and drive into flooded rivers and systems. So that not only puts yourself at risk, that puts your rescuers at risk as well, and there's just no need. But yeah, people need to monitor the weather, monitor over the next particularly almost week, and then be aware of the warnings as they're being issued, and stay up to date. And have their own plans ready to go as well.
And we often hear, Daniel, with these flood events, many people, particularly younger people, thinking it's a bit of fun and getting into the water. What advice would you give people that are potentially wanting to do something like that?
Yeah, look, you don't want to be in floodwater. Look, not only for the debris that's coming down it. We've seen some images of some pretty sizable objects, including obviously the house up around Taree. Really quite an incredible image. But yeah, the contaminants that are in the water, everything that's washed into the water, the speed of that water. Fortunately in this event we're not seeing the warm temperatures that we've perhaps seen in some other events where people have thought it was a good idea to go and play in the floodwater. But certainly it is not a place to be for any reason. Just not worth it. And I do need to put a really significant shout out to the over 1,500 volunteers from the SES that were out yesterday and supported fantastically by all our partner agencies right up and down throughout the state.
Yeah, they do an amazing job and no doubt working around the clock and very, very long hours. How are they and how are they preparing themselves for today? No doubt they wouldn't have had too much rest overnight.
No, look, it's certainly been busy. We have reached out to our interstate colleagues as well. We are currently working through a number of requests to bring in some additional crews, both flood rescue crews, but also just general storm damage crews. And we're working with a number of other jurisdictions at the moment to bring some additional support in. As you said at the start, this is looking like something of a prolonged event now. So we're expecting to be in continuous operations for quite some time.
And if we look back to, well, the bushfire devastations that we've seen over the last, 10 years, this is the least active bushfire season that we've seen in 10 years. But now the flip side is we're in La Nina and seeing this huge amount of rain, not just La Nina associated with this system, but certainly SES crews on high alert with this particular situation. But I guess the better news is it's a different scenario. I don't know if it is better news, but very little bushfire activity.
Yeah, look, for SES crews, look, really, it's been particularly up along the northern parts of the state. We've seen some pretty consistent, steady rainfall events almost back to October. So one of the reasons we are reaching out to interstate colleagues is that our crews have been busy for an extended period. Some people may think the rain just started falling on Thursday and we're asking already, but in reality it's a cumulative effect. And our volunteers right around the state do a magnificent job. But at this point in time, we see it fit to not only try and exhaust all the resources we have here in New South Wales, but seek others from elsewhere.